Vera adjusted the cuffs of her tailored blazer as the black limousine came to a smooth halt in front of Seoul International Academy. The sprawling gates loomed high, adorned with ornate Korean symbols that reflected the prestige of the school. It was her first day, and though her outward expression was calm, her chest tightened with anticipation. Her father, a wealthy oil tycoon, ensured she always had the best, but she preferred blending into the background. That wasn't going to happen here, though, not when she was Vera Akanbi, the daughter of the man who had rivals in every corner of the world. Unbeknownst to Vera, her arrival had already sparked a chain of events.
In a shadowy, dim-lit office across town, Mr. Kong leaned back in his chair, a sinister smirk playing on his lips. "Jimin," he drawled, flipping through a file. "You know what to do. Her father ruined me. If we have her, he'll crumble." Jimin, a young man with a sharp jawline and eyes that held a storm, nodded silently. The tattoo on his wrist, a symbol of his allegiance to the Dragon's Claw gang, peeked out from under his sleeve. He was used to carrying out dangerous assignments without question, but something about this one made him pause. Kidnapping the daughter of a wealthy tycoon was risky even for him. Later that day, Vera strolled through the school garden, the only place she could find solace amidst the stares and murmurs. She hadn't noticed Jimin watching her from a distance, assessing her every move. Her confidence intrigued him, and for a fleeting moment he hesitated. When night fell, Jimin and his gang put the plan into motion. Vera had just finished her study session in the library when the lights flickered ominously. She heard footsteps behind her. Before she could turn, a cloth pressed against her face, then everything went black. She woke up in a dim warehouse, her wrists tied but otherwise unharmed. Jimin stood a few feet away, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "Who are you? What do you want?" Vera demanded, her voice steady despite her fear. "You'll find out soon enough," he replied coldly, though his gaze lingered on her longer than it should have. Days turned into weeks. Mr. Kang's plan was to use Vera as leverage, but her father refused to give in. Meanwhile, Jimin found himself spending more time guarding her. Her resilience and sharp wit surprised him. She wasn't the helpless, spoiled rich girl he had imagined. One evening, as she sat in her makeshift room, Vera challenged him. "Why do you do this? Is it just about the money, or is there something else?" Jimin didn't answer immediately. He looked at her, the fire in her eyes igniting something within him. "You wouldn't understand," he muttered, but the truth was, even he didn't fully understand anymore. The tension between them grew, but so did an unspoken connection. Jimin started sneaking her better food, making sure she was comfortable, and even brought her books when he saw her staring longingly at the ones in his bag. One night, as they talked about their lives, Jimin leaned in, his hand brushing hers. Vera looked up, her breath catching as their eyes locked. "You're not who you pretend to be," she whispered. "And you're not what I expected," he replied before closing the distance. Their lips met in a kiss that was both tender. Their growing bond didn't go unnoticed. One of Jimin's gang members, Tae, reported back to Mr. Kong. Furious, Kong demanded Jimin finish the job or face the consequences. Jimin was torn. For the first time in his life, he wanted something more than the loyalty he owed to the gang. But disobeying Kong meant putting both his life and Vera's at risk. One stormy night, Jimin made his decision. He burst into Vera's room, urgency in his voice. "We have to go. Now." "What's going on?" she asked, fear and confusion evident. "They'll kill you if we stay," he said, grabbing her hand. The warehouse erupted into chaos as the gang realized their betrayal. Jimin fought his way through, his combat skills honed from years in the gang. Vera, though terrified, held her own, using a wooden plank to fend off an attacker. They fled into the night, rain soaking them as they hid in the alleys of Seoul. Jimen made a call to a trusted friend who promised to help them leave the city. Just as they thought they were safe, Mr. Kang's men ambushed them. A fierce fight ensued, with Jimen taking on multiple attackers to protect Vera. She watched in awe and fear as he fought like a man possessed. When Kong himself appeared, Jimen faced him head-on. "You've lost," Jimen spat, blood dripping from a cut on his lip. Kong sneered. "Do you really think you can escape this life? She'll never forgive you once she knows who you really are." Jimen hesitated, but Vera stepped forward. "He's not the monster you are," she said, her voice steady. The arrival of the police, piloted by Jimen's friend, ended the standoff. Kang and his men were arrested, but Jimen surrendered himself, knowing he couldn't outrun his past forever. Weeks later, Vera visited him in custody. "Why did you do it?" she asked softly. "Because I love you," he admitted, his voice breaking. Tears filled her eyes. "I'll wait for you," she promised. Jimen smiled, the first genuine smile he'd felt in years. He had found redemption in her, and for the first time, he believed in a future worth fighting for. Their story wasn't over, but it had finally found its beginning.